In the grand theater of life, we all seek a comeback, a resurgence, a rekindling of our inner fire. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience. This is not just another podcast. This is a journey, a venture into the heart of human spirit, the power of resilience, and the art of reigniting our passions.
Well, and I think, Rand, when we talk about like the meme that is the solution, we've actually been on this path for quite some time. If you go back to like 70s and 80s sitcoms that were 30 minutes in time, there was typically some type of conflict that would arise in that 30-minute sitcom. And that was what we had at the time, right? You had television or you had the news, like entertainment television or the news. And so all of the conflicts would resolve within that 27-minute episode. And you just continue to go through life while thinking, if it's going to last more, if this pain is going to be, or this discomfort is going to last more than 20 minutes, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. I want it over with because that's what we've been programmed to. And then it's gotten worse. Now we've put it as a 3-minute or a 1-minute, video clip, and that's the solution. Or even, like you said, a meme. If you read a meme and you're like, that's what I need to do in life. I'm cutting this person off. We're not going to talk about it any longer. Yeah. We've been on this path for some time. We're really doing it to ourselves. But I think a book like this allows us to slow down. Yeah.
Well, I talk about that. I talk about the absolute need to slow down, and I talk about spirituality too. And there's a chapter in my book about spirituality, religion, and I say, religion, if it works for you, great, I'm happy. There's a lot of, issues around that with these organized religions that, surround the world. But to me, spirituality is indispensable. And what I mean by spirituality is being in awe. So just being aware and being humble, having humility. And where that occurs for me most is when I go out into nature and I look at the amazing things, the flower, the bud turning into a flower, the caterpillar into the butterfly, and so on. There's just, look, open your eyes and look, and slow down. Maybe you're not listening to the podcast, even though it was a good one. You're just stopping and looking, taking a minute. I go on hikes with friends and I'll see something and I'll just stop. I'll stop whatever they're saying. I say, look at this bug. And, they're in the middle of trying to explain something that's important to them. And I say, we'll get back to that. You're not going to forget what you're talking about, but this bug is moving away and we got to look at it right now. And humility, just recognize, as much as I've had this enormous life and a lot of personal and professional success, I am a little grain of sand on planet Earth, and I'm nothing, zero when it comes to the universe. And going out in nature really helps me. And this is all part of the slowing things down. I often am by myself. It's a quiet time. It's a time to do some reflection. What's going on? And I also do a lot of journaling, especially if lots going on too much, or I'm confused, I'm conflicted, some emotion, I'm feeling not good, but it's not one clear anger or some, clear one emotion. It's a jumble. And I got to journal to break it down. And once I can understand it, then I can start solving it.
I love that. It's so interesting you say the slow down piece of it, because it's almost like we've created this scotoma. It's like with this blindness, like nature is all around us. Beauty is all around us. But what stands out to us are the bad things that we hear because it's new. And if we were just to slow down, stop, and just open our eyes and just look around, it's everywhere, from the clouds, the trees. And it's very easy when you're going through adversity to have those blinders on and all you can see is where you're at and that pain that you're going through. But gosh, if you just stop and just look at the beauty that's everywhere around us.
The beauty in yourself, the beauty around you. This goes back to the gratitude point. I chronicle what's going on in my life, who's in my life. And that's a really, really valuable thing for me to do. That helps. I can look back into my notes and say, oh my gosh, 10 years ago, last week, such and such happened, and it was marvelous. And I relive it in all all its greatness. So I don't lose track of that, because I'm keeping track. And yeah, I do want to talk about resilience.
Let's do it. Let's talk about resilience. We are all about that.
Because I think what we've been talking about is, it's this resilience is there either in the middle of it or it's a big part of this. And of course, that's what the podcast is all about. Well, many, many things it's all about, but that's the, the name of it. And, resilience is something that can be built.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that can be grown and made bigger. I kind of think of it, lately I've been thinking it's kind of like a rubber ball. Are you a rubber ball that can bounce, or are you a metal ball that's going to go thunk and, make a dent in the floor?
Mm-hmm.
So what does it take to become the rubber ball and have resilience? Well, I think at the minimum, these three things. It takes grit. And grit is persistence and mental toughness. I got to say, in my career, getting through stuff, this has been probably number one. I've had clients come back to me on both sides of the equation, both my client and the other side, saying, because of the way you've handled this, you have so much persistence, and in a nice way, we want to do this. We want to sign up for that. So grit, one thing. Another thing is gratitude. If you have gratitude, then you can have this perspective that we were talking about. It's so much value in getting the bigger sense. It's not just me. It's just not just now. It's a bigger lens. And then I got to add in, being positive. And these are choices. All of these are choices. So can you build resilience? I got to say emphatically, yes. It's not like going to the supermarket and taking a box of resilience off the shelf. It's not like that, but it is doable, and it is enormously important, because who gets through things without some bumps in the road? I don't know anybody.
Yeah. If you are alive, you will or have gone through some adversity in your life. And I'm a big believer that every challenge you face and go through is preparing you for the next one. It's making you able to handle the next one. I had a very dear friend, when I was diagnosed with cancer, she's like, your marriage prepared you for this. And I was like, you're absolutely right. And then that, to me, the going through the cancer was like a walk in the park compared to what I had gone through. And so I do believe that they build us. They build us and prepare us for what's next.
Well, I love that, Pam. I would adjust it a little bit by say they can. They can build us. And there's some people who kind of walk away from that and walk away from the learning. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right? So what do you do about your mistake? Do you feel bad about yourself, or do you kind of say, let me be honest. Nobody has to see my notes or my thoughts. I'm gonna admit that I blew that. I made a mistake, and now what am I going to learn from that?
Yeah,
and you could turn that into a valuable lesson. That's where you exactly what you're talking about right there.
So yeah, you're right. It is a choice. We do have the choice to let it grow us if we choose. I love that.
Well,
Rand, I want to thank.
Is power. Yeah.
I was going to say, I want to thank you for separating the gratitude and the positivity, because oftentimes people will combine those or make them one and the same. You can find yourself in a place of gratitude, but still not be positive. I've seen that with clients that I've coached in the past. You can find yourself being positive and not finding things to be grateful for, or a list, right? And that's something that Pam and I do. At the end of the year, we typically wrap up the year by making a long list. I think it's 1,000, maybe it's 100 It's a long list. I've got, it's 365 things that we're grateful for. So we do one thing that we're grateful for each year.
That's good.
And yeah, so when we look at that, and it's easy, you get through the first 20, 40, 50 of them. And then when you get past 50, at least this is my experience, looking back at an entire year, it starts to become challenging to find the extra 310 things that you're grateful for. And that becomes a daunting list. Now, I don't sit down and do it all in one sitting because I want to stay in that place of positivity as I'm going through the things that I'm grateful for. But they're different. And when you talk about resiliency, it's a combination of all three. It's the grit, it's the gratitude, it's the positivity. And they're not the same, but you have to incorporate them. It's the formula when we're talking about resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. I was talking to somebody a few weeks back, and they told me this amazing story. It brought tears to my eyes, actually. He decided that he was going to write a gratitude journal. And I thought, okay, now I've kind of probably heard this one before. But he said he was going to write a thing every day, one thing every day that he was grateful for his wife about. And it could be something very simple, like the smile, or that she picked up something that made his life a little bit better, or whatever. And so he collected all this. He wrote it down for the whole year, 365 days, and he gave it to her on her birthday. And I'm right now, I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps about this. And she loved it. And she said, "This is the best present I've ever had. You see me, you're appreciating me. I love it." And then I said to him, I love this. I love this. And you know what? You gave yourself a gift, because now you're engaged with her in a wholly different way. Big, deep, surface, every day. Amazing. Bravo.
Yeah. What you focus on expands.
Yeah.
He was focusing on finding the things to be grateful for, not the things to be annoyed by, which sometimes we tend to do. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially the people that are closest to us, right? We often think, gosh, they're just doing that to press my buttons because they know, right? Like, it's like, why would you do that? But then when you acknowledge it and you recognize it, like, I'm so grateful that you took the trash out, on this day because I was exhausted and I forgot. I'm so glad that you did that for me. Thank you. Right? Like, that's finding gratitude in the small, not just the big, and breaking that down to 365 days. I'd have to say, I'm going to invite the listeners, if that resonates with you, if it speaks to you, I invite you to do that. I mean, what a special gift to the receiver of that and to the person that's doing the 365-day list.
Yeah.
Did she know about it or not?
I think it was a complete surprise to her.
Wow, he kept that secret for a year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I think he got into the flow of it. So it wasn't as if he had to go and spend like an hour thinking about it. He just go, whatever, what's going on? What happened? And he jotted down. I think he tended to do it later in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might have been something in the morning. It could have been, it doesn't matter. He just jotted down in the journal.
I love it. It's what you're trying to.
I would imagine, and I would love to just hear, just if he'd like to come on the show, we'd love to hear about this. But I would imagine that as you start to make this a habit and you're doing it on a daily basis, it becomes easier to find multiple things that you're grateful for throughout the day, right? So knocking out 365 becomes a cakewalk at, I'm sure, day 20, 40, 90, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I think habits. There's a lot of books around about habits. Some are really fantastic. It's like a muscle, though, and I think just as you were saying, Ellie, if you do it and you're doing it regularly, maybe daily, whatever, it's more familiar. It's more accessible. It feels you're stronger for it, like doing exercise. Whereas if you do it so irregularly, it's hard to make it a habit, and it's harder.
Beautiful. The only thing I would add to your list is humor. I think Natalie and I talk about humor a lot because we had an episode where, what was it, when your life feels like a country western song?
Yes, we like to call these things the lyrics to your country western song. And it's Pam, you started to write another song just a few weeks ago. It's, the dishwasher goes out, the air conditioning goes out, and the car needs new brakes, right? It's like, that's great. Now here's my country song. When the dog died and your significant other left. Like, there's your country song. Yeah, absolutely.
We've heard it. We've heard it.
We've all had that song. We've all had that song multiple times in our lives. So, but we oftentimes, when Natalie and I are going through stuff, it's the laughter to get through it. That's positivity.
This is an expanding, like, accordion kind of thing. Since you mentioned music, I can talk about an accordion.
Yes.
There are a couple of other ingredients here that weigh into resilience, but they weigh into this whole life that we're talking about building. And one of these really critical things is having purpose.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who don't, and a lot of people, I've dealt with people like my whole career who can't wait to sell their company and retire. And I'm doing talks now at retirement homes and other places. And I go, you have to have purpose till the very last day you're on the planet, even if it's just being a nice person, a kind person, a generous person, asking a new neighbor, if there's anything you can do to help them to settle in or explain how the place works or something like that. Having purpose is, it builds in the direction of aiding you, giving you energy, giving you the ability to withstand wind coming at you that is hard to get through. I had a nice talk yesterday with a friend. He's writing a book, and he's paying a lot of attention to what my experience has been, which has been phenomenal. But I said, well, why are you writing the book? Because if you know why you're writing the book, that will give you so much energy, so much power. It'll give you staying power. You can keep going. Why am I writing? I'm writing it because it's really important. I'm writing it for this reason. And he didn't have an answer. And then about 3 minutes later, he says, I'm having a hard time getting it written. I keep on getting distracted. And I said, do you see a connection there? If you spend more time understanding why you want to write this book, then it'll give you, you'll want to spend an hour or two or whatever it is every day. You can't wait. And when you're not actually writing, you're going to be thinking about it because it's so important to you. Have purpose. So that's another nugget that is, I talk about the 10 keys to aging well. And there are some of that we were talking about a little while ago about the 7 personal qualities that lead to life satisfaction achievement. They overlap to some extent, but the purpose one is on the aging well thing. And aging well is not for people age 80 and up. It's you're aging in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. Are you aging well?
Yeah.
Well, again.
Yeah, and I love that purpose thing. I mean, Viktor Frankl talked about it in Man's Search for Meaning, about the ones that had a purpose, a reason. They're the ones that survived. It was the ones that didn't survive. And
So true.
So many people that live their lives just almost in this robotic stage. They go to work, they're done. And then it's the ones that don't have a purpose. They retire, and then you hear about them. They're gone within months, and they hadn't, like, their identity.
That's it. They're not with us any longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Metaphorically or otherwise. Yeah. So right.
Beautiful. I love it.
Well, I think I don't know. Should we keep going? I've got a couple more little nuggets.
Give it to us. We love it.
Okay. So I've got a little trifecta of emotional health.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, keep in mind, I am not licensed. I've been doing a lot of executive coaching with my clients and selling their companies and buying out their partners and all this for decades and decades. But I'm not a licensed guy, and I have a degree in psychology, but this is not that. It's not that technical, deep lie on the couch or whatever you're doing. So in no particular order, one is to forgive. So if you're not forgiving, there's a little line you may have heard. It's like, if you're not forgiving, it's someone who did something. It's like drinking the poison yourself and expecting them to die.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to look at the situation, and you got to be honest. Did you play any role in this whatsoever? They hurt you. They upset you badly. And it could have been recent. It could have been a long time ago. You've held on to it. Was it intentional? Take a look. You may not know. Is it intentional or unintentional? If it's unintentional, you can maybe give them a little more break. Mm-hmm. You got to be honest. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be carrying those heavy rocks around. Yeah. I mean, if you're moving on in life and you're still harboring resentments and stuff, that's not good. The docs will tell us that's not a good thing. Mm-hmm. You got to forgive yourself as well. Mm-hmm. And again, this is being the honest. What did you do, and why did you do it? And then, if the person that did something bad to you is gone out of your life, they've moved, you have no contact with them, or they're off the planet, then you maybe write a letter. And maybe you say, look, here's what happened. It made me feel horrible. I think you owed me an apology, which I never got, but I'm forgiving you. So let go of that one. This is emotional health. That's one. A second one is to stop self-sabotaging. Oh my gosh. How many people are just not getting in the game of life because they're saying, I can't. Maybe they heard when they were a student, or, the mom or dad said, you're not good at this. I remember as a math student getting my degree, I was tutoring, and students would come in. Within a minute or two, they'd say, I'm not good at math. Mm-hmm. Well, they set themselves up to have no confidence and struggle. And I'd work with them. We'd solve some problems together. And then I said, well, you try this one after a while. And they'd solve it. I go, well, how do you feel? So, I like math. This is fun.
I love it.
So a big switch. So, stopping self-sacrificing, even if there's only a 1 in 100 chance of something good coming out of you trying something, well, that's a good thing.
Love it.
And then the third of my trifecta is learning to let go. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, this is the hardest one for me, because so much of my life I thought of as I was in control. I controlled everything around me. I controlled my client. I controlled, my family. There was nothing I wasn't controlling. But then I had a big wake-up call as my 2 terrific kids were getting married. And I said, wow, I'm not controlling this. Mm-hmm. What I do control, yes, I continue to control. I control throughout is my attitude. I control the amount of effort I'm going to put into something. I control my behavior. This is back to this, having self-control. I control my actions. I'm making choices. Am I going to do something good or not? But that's me. What about the concentric circles beyond that? Well, the most I can ask for is to have some influence, and I can screw that up and diminish my influence, or I can grow it. So that's my emotional health thing, aging well.
I love it. Wise words, and ones that we can all work on and continue to work on, for sure. So, yeah. I love it. All right. Any final words or any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with before we end today?
Well, I do want to share one more. And, my purpose in life has been, now I've adjusted it again, which is a good thing to do, to keep revisiting what is my legacy, what is my purpose. And it started with excellence, then it went to purpose, and then it went to encouraging, being a voice of encouragement and helping other people. And now it's living life, being love. And, some people say, well, you've lived in Northern California way too long. You're turning into a real flaky guy. Well, what I mean by being love, living life as love, is being kind and being respectful and listening, asking questions, being generous, performing acts of loving kindness with Mother Nature and animals and other people. And when somebody does something for you, they bring you a cup of coffee. Well, yeah, that's their job. Okay, but you can say thank you. I really appreciate it. This is a really nice place. Or, by the way, what's your name? And everybody has a story, and everybody really kind of wants to tell their story and be seen. So it's just a way of moving through life, holding it that way, and it makes life so joyful, and you become powerful in a kind of way. I don't mean like powerful like in a physical way, but it's worth doing. Please, listeners, it's a big part of thriving.
Love it. I love it. How can people find you if they want to learn more about you or reach out to you?
Well, I would love to be in contact with any of your listeners. You can go to my book website, randselig.com. Lots of information about my book, Thriving. But there's also a Connect with Rand page. And you can invite me to be a speaker. You can say, hey, I had a question, or in all due respect to what you said about this, I don't really agree completely with. Whatever. It's totally on to connect with me that way. You can go to Amazon and pick up the book. There's a very nice author central page, and oh gosh, lots of reviews, 5-star reviews, tons and tons of reviews going on with this book. So that, and of course I'm on LinkedIn. That's my primary social media thing. And I post, a few times a month. I'm not going crazy with that.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure that we have all of your information in the show notes so that our listeners can reach out to you and connect with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was amazing. I can't think of a better way to end a week. I'm sure Natalie is the same, and she's going to, are you
the same? Absolutely. I think this is fabulous. And so many takeaways. I've already added the book to my cart, my Amazon cart. So hopefully it's back at home when I get there. And Rand, it has been an absolute pleasure. An absolute pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. I hope to meet you in person one of these days, Natalie and Pam.
That would be amazing. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this and you want to know what we're up to, Natalie and I are up to lots of new stuff. You can go to reigniteresilience.com, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and now newly to YouTube. So lots of fun stuff coming ahead. So we're excited about the rest of this year. So that's all I have. Anything else, Natalie? Are we good? This is fabulous.
No, I think this is great. Thank you so much, Rand. It has been an absolute honor. And to our listeners, we'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Reignite Resilience. We hope that you had amazing ahas and takeaways. Remember to subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like it and download the upcoming episodes. And if you know anyone in your life that is looking to continue to ignite their resilience, share it with them. We look forward to seeing you on our future episodes. And until then, continue to reignite that fire within your hearts.